I'm so delighted to share my conversation with Caren Prentice on the magic of in-between spaces with you today. Caren is a meditation teacher, and she shares her own experience of an in-between time when she'd started a spiritual practice and was beginning to see the toll her anger was taking on her relationships, but she didn't yet know how to relate differently with situations that made her angry. She was able to stay quiet instead of lashing out in anger, and eventually, in that quiet space that replaced her angry response, her own inner wisdom began to show up and guide her to a new way of responding. Caren began meditating in 1972, but struggled for decades to establish a consistent meditation practice. During the 80s and 90s, as she juggled career, family, and eventually became a stay-at-home mom to 4 kids, she continued to study different traditions and techniques, looking for a way to feel less angry and frustrated. In 1999, she discovered Kriya Yoga and found a meditation technique she actually enjoyed practicing regularly, and this is the tradition she carries on. Caren is not aligned with any one school of meditation. Rather, she considers herself simply a meditation teacher, using her background in yoga, mindfulness, and Tibetan Buddhism to help her students find joy in meditating using techniques that work best for their personality and lifestyle. Around 2009, her students gave her the name Meditation Mama. Several years ago, she opened Hamsa Meditation Center, which has evolved into a small, friendly online meditation community serving people of all ages all over the country. I hope you enjoy this conversation with Caren about the magic of in-between spaces. Welcome to Letting Grow, the podcast about one of the spiritual journey's most difficult and courageous moments, letting go of who we think we should be so we can grow into who we most deeply are. I'm your host, Claire Villarreal, and I appreciate your joining me today. First, I just want to thank you so much, Caren, for being willing to share your wisdom and your presence with me and whoever is listening or watching later. You have been such a warm, mentoring kind of figure in my life, and I'm really, really pleased to get to share your wisdom with other people too. Well, I got the inspiration for having this conversation from an earlier conversation that we had about all the transitions I'm going through. And I remember you just took the conversation into this really magical and wise place. I remember talking about the process of transitions, and where we got to was so there's the old self, the old identity, and in the process of death and rebirth, or the process of a transition in this lifetime, there's something that's being stripped away. That old identity in some way is falling apart. And then there's this period between the collapse of the old identity and the birth of the new identity where we're just more naked to the world. And I remember, specifically, I remember you saying it's so important to allow the magic and to not give up. I think sometimes I feel tempted to just go back if it doesn't look like the path forward is clear and is obvious. So I kind of just want to make a space for you to share your wisdom about that. If you want to use stories from your own life to illustrate it, that would be awesome. But whatever teachings you have, I will happily take them in, Caren.
Well, when you brought this up, I was reflecting back, and what comes most readily to mind when we talk about this is the experience I had when I was trying to change a long-standing way of being, right? An identity.
Mm-hmm.
And it, as we all know, as we start on this path and we start growing up, and the old ways don't work anymore, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we don't know how to do it differently.
Yeah.
And so what was happening, this was back in the 90s, and I was bumping up against the part of me that was really angry.
Mm.
Just, I had a lot of anger, a lot of rage, and a lot of criticism and blame. And I don't know that I understood back then the way I do now that I was coming out of a paradigm where I was raised in an angry household.
Mm.
My dad was an alcoholic and an angry alcoholic, and I was kind of the brunt of it because I was the oldest. And my mom was angry, but she was angry in a very quiet,
Mm.
like this way, very, turned inward, and she would just, her mouth would just get tight. She
Uh-oh.
wouldn't talk. It was like, yeah. And and that turned into a depression. It was like they had the two types of anger,
Mm.
but that was the stew that I was formed in. And
Mhm.
part of that way of being was you were always, nobody ever gave us this instruction, but we were taught to blame everybody else in the world for everything that was wrong. Nothing was ever our fault. It
Mm.
was always somebody else's fault, to the point where I would, when I was parenting, I would say to a kid, if you hadn't done that, then all of these other things wouldn't have happened. And I would lay the weight of the problems of the world on the fact that my kid didn't pick up their sock or something.
Right,
And
right.
not nicely, right? Angrily.
Mm.
So, enter this real sincere desire to change because the paradigm wasn't working. I didn't
Mm.
want to be angry like that anymore. And I started meditating. And what happens, as you know, with meditation is it changes us in subtle ways we don't even realize.
Mhm.
Like suddenly we're more aware.
Mhm.
And in that awareness, we've also learned how to kind of step back and just kind of notice what's going on. And I was in that process of change where I was beginning to notice and realize it wasn't everybody else's fault. The anger was inside me. And these reactions were coming up inside me. And so that shift, this transition, this transformation from being a blaming, angry at the world, it's all your fault person, to taking responsibility for my own reactions and choosing how to respond. I mean, that's like two different people, right? It's two different people. And when I first started doing this, what would happen is I remember we had a very tiny house. So the kitchen and living room were all connected, and it was tiny. And I would be sitting there in my kitchen or standing there doing something, and a kid would come through, and I could just feel myself going, it was like I was just angry. But I could watch the anger, I could see it, and I knew I didn't want to do it, but I didn't know how to do it differently. I didn't know. I literally, somewhere in my head, I thought, oh, if I meditate, I'll know how to do it different. I'll be peaceful and kind and gentle, and, I'll know just all the wise things to say.
I wish.
Right? Right? But that's not what happens. What they tell you is to meditate, to watch your breath, come back from the thoughts, and just come back to the breath again and again, or whatever the technique, right? And I'd gotten good at that. So what that gave me the skill to do was when I was getting upset, it gave me the skill to come back from that upset into the moment. But until I had grown enough to find another way to do it, this was, to me, was the magic place where I could figure out how to just And Claire, this is going to sound so simple, so silly, but it's not. I had to just learn how to keep my mouth shut,
Mm.
right? Now,
Mm-hmm.
I'm raised in a more soprano-like environment, right? Not a love and light, but yelling at each other, blah, blah, blah. And don't say it. Are you nuts? Of course I'm going to say it. Right? So, so I feel on one hand, okay, I'm keeping my mouth shut because I know what's about to come out is not going to help the situation.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I'm having to literally rewrite my whole programming, which was say it. Just just yell, just get it out there.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm not doing that. Now I'm trying to keep my mouth shut so because I know that I'm just making things worse. But keeping your mouth shut when you're upset, when you're angry, and not saying it is really, I didn't even know how to do that. I had to literally, that's all I worked on for quite a while was I don't want to be that person anymore. I'm doing so much damage.
Mm-hmm.
Recognition of that. Now here I am. All I can do is learn how to keep my mouth shut and hope that as I can do that, I will gain other skills. And I guess
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of what I just trusted that the other skills would come as I calmed down and I had more perspective. And so to me, I feel like those years where I learned to keep my mouth shut, Claire, I would literally walk out of the room. I'd be in the kitchen, my kid would start in at me or somebody, or my husband, who it didn't matter. I was angry at everybody, right? And I would be trying not to get upset. Well, if you're quiet, they don't know what's going on, so they're going to keep doing what they're doing because they want that reaction. That's what they're used to, right? And I would literally walk out of the kitchen going, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to say it. I refuse to go down that road again. I refuse to go down that. I would literally say out loud. And I didn't care if they thought I was nuts. I just wanted that badly to change.
Hi, friends. Want to join the Letting Grow tribe? I'll be starting a bi-weekly newsletter in early 2021 with links to articles, YouTube videos, other podcasts, and basically the best of the rebirth content I've come across lately. Some examples of the kinds of things I want to share with you include a snap judgment story about a bull who seemed to be the reincarnation of another bull, a viral article about the creepy things kids say, but some of them 100% seem to refer to previous lives, and some excerpts from the book I'm writing now about the lessons Tibetan Buddhist teachings on life and death offer to those of us going through transitions. Spoiler alert, that's all of us. Best of all, if you're subscribed, you'll get links to join free live video calls with me and other subscribers every couple of months. So pause this episode now, find the newsletter sign-up link in the show notes, and join your tribe.
I just wanted that badly to change. That makes sense?
Yes. Yes.
And so I would leave and I started with this, okay, if I don't make it worse, if I don't perpetuate the old pattern, this will, and this is actually what happened, it just opens up a space to be different. And this is where I think of the bardo you talk about, something, where I was literally just suspended in, I don't know. I was just, I don't know what to do next. So I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to just be right here because I know if I do that and go that way, I know what that looks like. And that's not good. But I don't have enough newness yet to be able to do anything in that direction without probably the old habit coming in and coming out of my mouth like poison.
Yeah. Oh my God. I'm just like so struck by the wisdom to know that you have to leave the old behind, the wisdom to trust the new, even when it doesn't give you answers yet for what your situation is presenting you with. And like the trust, the sense of trust that I get hearing your description of like, someday it's going to come. Wow, that's amazing. I just wanted to like highlight those things because I mean, I think those are actually, for me at least, the hard parts of being in that in-between space.
Isn't it though?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why a teacher is so important, right? Is we have somebody who we can look at and go, they've been here, they're telling me to do this, and if I do this, I will become more like them.
Mm-hmm.
And so I literally trusted, because I didn't have any option. I just knew I didn't want to go back that way. I couldn't do that anymore. I had done so much damage, and to my kids, to my husband, and I couldn't bear the thought of doing that anymore. And so that was the motivation, right? And I just trusted my teacher, and I literally just, today I know, today I understand that just learning how to bring our mind back from a thought to a different thought of our choosing, that's the power that meditation gives us, right? I mean, that simple little, just bring your mind back again, come back, just come back to what you're choosing for it to be focused on. And that's what gave me, little by little, built the tools and the strength and the muscle to be able to stand there. I remember I had my 6-year-old one time, she knew that if she just kept at me long enough, I'd blow, right? And as soon as I blow, she was back in charge. She was back in power, right? Because now the issue is my anger. The issue was no longer her behavior. Did I say that clearly enough? Okay. So these were my children, were my biggest teachers, and my Natalie was the best, because she would just kind of, she knew, they know, right? how to just respond or look at me or do whatever, and no matter how quiet I was being and trying not to do it, that trigger, and boom, I go. And after several failures, I mean, quite a few, Claire, you know how this goes, right? We don't do it right. We don't do it well. We totally screw up, right? And after enough of those, there was enough clarity in my brain that went, no. I know what's going to happen here. I'm going to blow, and the issue isn't going to be me. You're just going to be, and you were going to be absolved from the fact that you were out all night. That you were out all night doing things you weren't supposed to be doing with people I didn't want you to be with, right? And it was like brilliant on her part, right? Make the issue mom. So when you've got a teacher like that, I got better at controlling it, staying calm, staying centered, and not what would you call getting triggered, not flashing, not blowing up. And little by little, it was true. What happened was this, and I think this is the magic, Clara, is when we can rest in this place of not knowing without the heat. Eventually the heat dissipates. It just, it's you, by not speaking, not making it worse, the reflection we do afterwards, recognizing, okay, just to be able to choose to have okay, she's playing me right now. Oh my gosh, she's got me. Then I'm in a game as opposed to a rage. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And at that point now, I've found my in-between place where I'm not that other person. I'm not yet the new, but I'm not being literally pulled by those forces of anger and rage. They've eased. I've learned how to bring my mind back to a present moment. And the present moment was just my feet on the floor, looking at her, hearing her voice, smelling the smells in the kitchen. And then it kind of opens up. And this to me was the beauty, was the thought would come. I didn't have to plan what to say. When I was in that open space, a thought would come in. of what to say. And I had enough skill to deliver it without snarky, sarcastic, bitchy tone, right?
Yeah.
And so, 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 is this kind of what you were talking about?
Yes, absolutely. Um, at the moment that really kind of catches my attention from what you just described is that moment when a thought would come, like another thought. I don't know how to talk about like that magic of not doing the old thing, creating the space, and then sometimes that comes. And it's not something we can control, but I love, the sense of meditation opening that space in your life and then being able to have that internal awareness of the usual thoughts, and then if you don't follow them, something else happens.
And I guess maybe that's why I love meditation so much, is because in this process, I learned that when I can just be in this in between,
Mm-hmm.
trust it, not scared of it,
Mm-hmm.
but after you've been there a while, you get pretty comfortable just kind of hanging out and like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Just, I spent a lot of time there, right? And it's better than that one, and something's not bringing me up forward yet.
Yeah.
But they're really that I learned to trust that a thought comes. It's on some level, like maybe it's just something now that if I was to look at it from the perspective of all these years of meditation, it's like, of course a thought comes. Of course a thought comes. It's like we are tapped into, we are part of something so rich, so full of goodness, so full of wisdom. It's there. It's this other part of us that's getting in the way.
Yeah.
So of course, if I'm going to use the word surrender and trust,
Mm-hmm.
that innate wisdom and
Mm-hmm.
goodness is going to have a space to bubble up and astound me. Right?
I love it.
I was like, even when you say it's my wisdom, it's not my wisdom. I just got out of the way, and this other stuff started showing up, and it worked, and my life got better, and
Mm-hmm.
my family dynamics
Mm-hmm.
improved, and and actually, I mean, this is in the front of my head just because we just had, even though it was a very small Thanksgiving, my kids were all able to come over for Thanksgiving, right? And this is the truth, Claire, is back in the day, I mean, I was from such an angry family.
Mm-hmm.
And I was been so angry that when I would go watch these movies where they would open with everybody coming into the house with their food and everybody laughing and smiling and hugging each other and laughing. And, the movie would open like this, I'd be thinking to myself, what the F? Who lives like that? That's not real life. Real life is bitchy, angry. Why didn't you, where's the this? Why didn't you bring that? What, It's like, I asked you to set the table. Why didn't you set the table? Right? It's like, and so, but what's happened is as I shifted and allowed myself to trust the magic
Mm-hmm.
of this part of us that is very real,
Mm-hmm.
and it wants to bring us happiness and joy and harmony and humor and laughter, right? When my family gets together now, we have those families, and I look at that, and I look at everybody laughing and smiling and getting along and wanting to be together, and I don't take it for granted.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it's the manifestation of the growth and the magic and the power of this transitional place.
Mm-hmm.
that I
Yeah.
think so beautifully said to me is our invitation to this other way of being.
Mm.
So,
Wow, I love it. I mean, I love the richness of this like mysterious other place. I love the encouragement to just to trust it, you know? And it's not like a blind trust. You're already meditating, you're already seeing changes, and to trust that there's something within us that has the wisdom for whatever's coming next. Like, ah, I just feel like that nourishes my soul. How do you understand that part of ourselves that comes out when we make this space for it? Like, what would you call that, or how would you describe it?
I when I feel connected to that part of me, I feel like I am connected to life itself. It's like I'm connected to, it almost chokes me up, because it's just, it's not, it's not, it's me, but it's not me.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
me in my wholeness. It's me
yeah.
in my eternal connection
Hmm.
to whatever it all is. That's how I know there's something is I feel it, I sense it, and it's real, and you know this, nobody can take it away from us.
Hmm.
It's like we've touched it, we know it's there, and sure, life comes along, and we lose track, but once you've experienced it,
Yeah,
and to me, it's just it's life itself. It's the beauty and wisdom and goodness of life. I guess that's how I'd say it right now. What
that's
about you?
amazing.
What do you think?
I think in a way, my academic background maybe gets in the way of my having a simple answer. um, I think of it as Buddha nature, but that's sort of like a shorthand, you know?
Yeah,
And
what does that mean, Buddha nature? I think what I just described was Buddha nature.
exactly, that's what I was thinking. I was like, oh, that's the best non-Buddhist sounding description of Buddha nature. Both the sense that it's it's who we are at our deepest level, and the sense that it's not me, you know? Like
Yeah.
there's not a like you can't stick a label on it like, oh, this is enlightened Claire. No, it's just, you said it's life. It's the wholeness. One of Anne Klein, one of our teachers,
Yes.
one of her book titles is Unbounded Wholeness, which is about Dzogchen, like the great completeness practices in the Nyingma school of Tibetan Buddhism. And the idea is each of us is an unbounded wholeness. The world we participate in is an unbounded wholeness. Um, I kind of love the way that you've highlighted that we need to make a space for this to show up, but then it just comes from its own side. We can't lose it. We can't be so bad that we're beyond the reach of like our own true nature. That doesn't even make sense.
No, it doesn't. And I think that's why I love what Anne and Harvey have taught us, because it's like you have the more academic understanding, right? You've got the vocabulary and the incredible gift for describing and explaining these things. What I have I just simply have the experience of living it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I love Dzogchen because it's it I touch that place again.
Mm-hmm.
It's it but it's a place that I can touch in my life,
Mm-hmm.
in my day-to-day life.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that's the point of my life, is to help me get there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So God bless my little Natalie, who was my biggest teacher, my husband Bill. Just, these my kids, my husband are my real life teachers.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Anne and Goswami Krinanda and Harvey, you even, you are the teachers that give us the the map to help us find this in our everyday life. It's like it's a treasure hunt, and you guys are giving us our little map for the treasure, right? And if we follow, it's like we said in the beginning, if we just do what they tell me, I will find the treasure. And oh my God, it was true. Oh. So.
Oh my God. This has been such a lovely conversation. Thank you so much, Caren. I just feel like there's so much wisdom and so many blessings that you've shared with me, and hopefully other people will get to enjoy them too. Thank you so much. And I look forward to hopefully our next conversation.
Oh, me too, Claire. You are absolute joy and delight in my life, in my heart, in my soul. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And many, many, many auspicious blessings for you as you move forward as a teacher.
Thanks for coming along for today's exploration of the process of letting grow. If you found this episode helpful, please share it. And subscribe now so you're always in the loop. For links to more content related to today's episode, please see the show notes. See you again next week.